I'm Yuri Gore, and I'm going to show you how to make interactive music. To clarify, this is taking a track that you've written and making it into music that can actually be adapted into the game. If you wanted to know actually how to compose, then I guess look at literally any other video on the channel. They're all about composing. I even do like 4-hour composing sessions, which I like shorten into like 40 minutes. So it's still kind of long, but it goes over everything that I do. If that's why you're here. If not, and you're here to find out how to actually make interactive music, this is one of the ways. There are a few different ways because it just sort of depends on how big the game is, what level of interactivity you're going for. But if you want to do that really complex stuff, you probably already know what you're doing. This is more of the lower level stuff, still kind of a bit more complex than just one looping track, but yes. So basically, the first thing you need to do, and this is before you compose, is figure out what's happening in the level, and what the levels of intensity are. So the levels of intensity don't literally mean things being intense. It can be as calm and happy as you like. It's still going to have levels of intensity if there's interactive music. For this game, I've broken it up into 6. So roaming takes weapon out, enemies enraged, the midpoint of the level, when you're on low health, and then enemies enraged when you're on low health. Alright, so with that in mind, you then basically compose a piece of music that's cohesive with itself and goes through those 6 stages. I'm going to play this one, and I will talk about it after this. yeah, cool. So that was the track. As you heard, lots of different sections in there. 6 sections actually, going over all of those different parts. So that's step 1, and that's what you've got to do before you actually write. You've got to figure out all those levels of intensity, so you can write sections for them. Once you've done it, step 2 is basically identify stingers and layers. So I'll go over stingers in a second. At the moment we're going over the layers, which is basically what you've done. So this part here is going to be intensity level 1. This part here is going to be intensity level 2. 3 is... that is 3. Oh, it's 4, 5, and 6. Step 1 and step 2, those kinds of basically the same. You're going to write it, and then you're going to take those parts that you've written. Again, we'll come back to stingers. We're going to talk about now taking the stems and working out which stems play during which intensity level. So let's just call this stem 1. This is going to play the whole time. So it doesn't matter what level we're in. If we're in intensity level 5 or intensity level 2, stem 1 is going to play. When we are in intensity level 1, we're going to play stem 1, which is this, and stem 2, which is these little things. When we move into intensity level 4, let's say, we're going to keep playing stem 1. Then we're going to play stem, 4 and 5. This is also 4. Let's say we move over here to intensity level 6. We're going to play intensity layer 1, the layer stem 3 or whatever that one was, stem 4, which is those two there, those two, 5, which will be this. So you can see that instead of exporting this section here as a track and saying that's going to play when we reach intensity level 6, we're going to get all of the stems, break them all down, and say when we're at intensity level X, we're going to play stems X, Y, and Z. So once you've identified that, the next step is basically exporting all of that. So I already did that. You can see it here. All of my stems exported. And I'll touch up on that in a second. So exporting, that's fine. You know how to export it. You just go like this. Done. If you've got if you've actually done your buses properly over here, then you can actually just go on Cubase anyway. File, export, audio mixdown, multiple, go down to your group channels and just sort of export all the group channels. It's probably the easiest way to do it. I wanted to make it much more simple. I didn't want to have 100 different stems. I wanted the ones that were needed. So I sort of went through specifically and went, okay, this one's going to use this, and that, or whatever. Stingers. Stingers, if you don't know, are pieces of music, not sound effects, pieces of music that plays at a trigger, sorry. So when we get out a weapon, that triggers. That's a trigger. At that trigger, we're going to play all the stems that are needed at intensity level 2, as well as this trigger, this stinger here. So this stinger sounds like this. Just a simple scrape. That plays once, does not repeat. When you re-trigger that by taking out your sword again, it will play again. But if you take out your sword at the start, that's going to play, and it's never going to play again until you re-trigger it. So that's an instant stinger. There's also longer stingers, such as this one here. So that's cymbal roll. This cymbal roll, the way that we trigger this, because obviously it's not like the other one where they both happen dead on that center point. This one happens a little bit before, 8 beats before, or if we look at the seconds, approximately 5 seconds. But most like Unity and Unreal, you can actually program in beats per minute for this stuff. So what's going to happen here is this is stem 4, so that's when we get to the midway point. Because that isn't like a jump scare or like someone whipping their sword out, which is going to happen instantly, we can make sure that when we get to that that midway point, that's going to set off that trigger. That's going to then say, after this trigger is put off, in 8 bars, we're going to play all of the stems that are needed for intensity level 6. But that's going to hold off for 8 bars. And as soon as that triggers, we're going to start playing this one, this stinger. So that stinger is going to play whilst whatever's going on beforehand is still playing unaffected. At that 8 bars, we're then going to crossfade into intensity level 4 stems. So yes, those are the difference between stingers, and so we need to export out all the stingers, all of the stems. Then we go to the mastering stage. So I will see you in a second. So you can see when I did export them that I made some longer than that repeat. So the reason is some of these have this reverb tail here. All of them basically. And we're going to cut this reverb tail and get everything all the way up to here. Get on that, cut that. And then we're basically going to... So what we're doing is we're moving that reverb tail to the start of this. So that when it repeats, instead of having this like, instead of going like this basically, you hear that, how it stops and it cuts in. So what we want to do is we want to make this reverb tail, include this in here. Smooth. So when you do that, just make sure you extend when you're exporting these stems a little bit further than is needed. You might have to edit your track a little bit after you've written it. Just sort of cut the ends of those sections that, like, there's sometimes where something like this. This one. So this one actually played stuff afterwards. So we just had to cut it and delete it. We put it back afterwards so it still sounded good in the track, but just so we could export it properly. Alright. We should probably actually have a look at these. Mastering isn't so... Oh, this just has some reverb on it. Nice. Okay. So necessary. You definitely should master your tracks, but... We'll do the mastering later. Oh, I don't know if I actually finished talking about... I got distracted. If I finished talking about that, the part A's. So, the ones that we need part A is things like this. Oh, I'm an idiot. I didn't mute it. So, this. Where we want, when we start out the game, we don't want it to already feel like a track's already playing. So we want that to sort of, you know, do that. And then, synth B is so that that track A, can I just... Okay. Okay. So synth A is going to play once. This is going to play once and never again. After synth A plays, synth B repeats infinitely. You can hear what happens, you know, if I actually loop this, it'll sound good. It sounds fine. It sounds like it's just looped. But if I just start like this, you know. Alright, so that's basically it. Now what we need to do is identify these for developer. So I'm going to get these two. All of these ones with reverb, we want to export them together. unless it's an A and a B, but the only A and B is actually this start one. Then, most important, test it in the game. Right, so you might hear these and go, on second thoughts, these layers don't work now that I'm playing it together. But you can do a good test here, as I'm doing, just sort of selecting the files that you need. If we just go, it's fun to just sort of go. Sick. Yeah. One thing to look at in the game is, do these happen too quickly? Musically, it's going to make sense, it's going to work, but if when we're playing the game, I'm going between this and then crossfading between, like, I don't know, out to like these ones, and they're too big of a jump, it's not going to work. But I hope that makes sense. If I skipped over anything, it's because I did this video and then realized I wasn't recording, so I had to do it again. So sorry about that. If I did go over anything and confused, let me know in the comments. If you want to know more about more in-depth, like much harder level stuff than this, then I don't know. Also ask in the comments, I can probably explain, or do like another video if you really want it. But yeah, thanks for watching.